All right, I think I'm actually live. So this is an amazing milestone for my YouTubing content creator career. I'm going live with 0 viewers right now, so that's an improvement because I have never went live before. So this is really just a test run to see how it does. Oh, I have a viewer. Maybe. Says one concurrent viewer. So, oh, it's my wife. So, I gotta sign in. Damn it. Okay. Well, I don't know why I have to sign in to my own live stream chat. That's annoying as hell. It's about as bad as when somebody's spotting you while bench pressing and they stick their balls in your face. Yes, it's me. As bad as when somebody's spotting you while bench pressing and they stick their balls in your face. All right. I am obviously brand new at this, so I think all right. Can you see me now? All right, perfect. Can you hear me and everything? All right, so I totally messed that up. I turned something on and I started hearing my own broadcast. So I'm just going to try to do it from here for right now. My one viewer, my wife, in the other room, testing this out. Who knows? What's weird, it only shows I have, depending on what I'm looking at, 1 or none. Beer burp. All right, so wanted to do a live stream. Try it out for the first time. See what happens with it. And I am going to do some different stuff. Somebody left a comment the other day, but I'm going to hold on to that one. So right now, currently in the news, I put out a video reflecting this yesterday due to what Putin has said is Western provocations, which is really tied into 3 concurrent events. One is Emmanuel Macaroni, the French president. He has again reiterated that they're not going to rule out sending troops into Ukraine. And, it's one of Putin's famous red lines. And so there's that. The supplying Ukraine with the F-16s, which Putin has said is nuclear capable. And so it's a nuclear provocation. And then also the British Foreign Secretary, David Cameron, has said that they have supplied Ukraine with weapons and permission to strike within Russia. All these 3 things have kind of happened relatively simultaneous. I know the French president said the thing about the troops a few weeks or maybe even a month back, but it has, it is it's a real thing. So he has said he's going to run tactical nuclear drills along the Ukrainian border. He has already previously placed tactical nuclear weapons in Belarus. And of course, the justification there is that the United States has forward deployed weapons in NATO ally countries. They're not nuclear armed countries themselves, but NATO ally countries like Germany, Turkey, and some other ones. And so, from his point of view, saying, well, we're doing the same exact thing. So, let's see here. Still trying to figure this out, so bear with me. Something about my bit rate, but I have to figure that out after the fact. I don't want to bore people as I'm trying to figure out how to do a live stream. So, taking all these things into consideration, it's in the news, and I like to use tactical nukes. I always say I prefer theater-level nuclear weapons. Well, what's the difference? The difference is nuclear weapons can broadly fall into two categories: strategic and theater level. And their goals and aims are different. Best way I can say strategic is going to be your ICBM silos, your sub-launched, most your sub-launched ballistic missiles, and stuff that's going to be shot from further away, and it's really to take out the enemy's ability to fight the war. Theater level is more meant to achieve battlefield success in different ways. So that kind of separates the two in a broad terms. There's a lot of different variations within that. I mean, were so psychopathic at times. We had nuclear depth charges, nuclear torpedoes, nuclear armed artillery, and there's actual defense systems that are nuclear armed too. Because one of the best ways to stop incoming nukes is to fire your own nukes at them and hit them, and it's very effective. And there's also even for anti-air nuclear systems, because you don't have to necessarily come close to intercepting the aircraft. You just fire up a nuclear weapon and boom, you're going to take out maybe an entire flight formation. So there's a lot of stuff involved in theater level nuclear weapons that fall into that broad category. And since the height of the Cold War, there's been a reduction of stockpiles, but there's still quite a large amount. And so the video I posted, it ran through what would happen if Putin had used theater level, lower yield weapons to try to escalate the situation in Ukraine to bring a finality to it. And did stuff, whether he had nuked an air base, whether he nuked Zelensky's bunker location, or one of the bunker locations. I joked, man, I hope the FBI is not looking at my searches, because I'm searching location of Zelensky's underground bunker and location of Ukrainian Air Force General Command. And one of the people commenting on the video, though, said, well, what would happen and what would be the effects in a country like China, where it's a very dense population? And it's a very legitimate question. And so, China and Japan, for that matter, Japan's population overall is not, near this size, but they're both very dense countries as far as where their population lives. You can see China right here. I mean, look at it. Your population is all right here, and concentrated around some main cities. And, the higher the concentration, the more casualties there are going to be. And I've placed some subs around, kind of close to the shore. So I have placed a Chinese sub near the west coast here, and also a Russian sub. Because the video before that, I looked at, okay, well, there's a nuclear triad, and that's, air, land-based ICBMs, and sea-based subs. And there's a large growing population that says we don't need the Sentinel, which is supposed to be the newest ICBM, in planning, that we don't need the Sentinel, that these are just nuclear sponges. It puts the people that live near our missile farms at a higher risk, and they actually increase the chance of an escalation, because they're vulnerable. So if the enemy hit us and launched, or we perceive that they launched due to a glitch or error, we have a certain amount of time. We got to say, well, if we don't fire these could be at risk and we could lose them. And they argue subs are different. Subs can be positioned in such a way that they're going to survive a second strike, so we don't have to rush and hit the button right away. And we can see, well, is this legitimate or not? And of course, there's the air one too, and those in the air can be vulnerable being in an air base, especially if enemy subs can get close to our borders. The time for launch to impact is much reduced. An ICBM is about 30 minutes from Russia to the United States or vice versa, but if a sub is able to get closer, it could reduce that time. They could hit some of our strategic air bases and potentially neutralize that. There's a famous little mini documentary called First Strike made in the 80s, which was really a scaremongering tactic to say, how vulnerable ours were to a Soviet strike. And they used scenes from that in The Day After, which was a 1983 movie about, I would not say an all-out nuclear war between the Soviet Union and the United States, but a fairly decent-sized one, and what would happen the day after that took place. They used scenes from that. So they say the subs are the most survivable, the least destabilizing, and that we have enough in those subs that carry enough missiles, enough warheads, that it's a very credible deterrent. And when I did that video, we saw the casualty rates. I eliminated all land and air-based units. We just had subs, and we had United States and Britain and France making strikes against Russia, the United States making strikes against China, and then China making vice versa. And casualties were extremely high across the board. But it calls into question, yes, they do perceive to seem to be very survivable, but where's technology at a point now? Can we track and eliminate enemy subs? I mean, how well is our tracking mechanisms? How well can we detect them and neutralize them? And vice versa for the other side. Is it even a realistic prospect that a Chinese or Russian sub could get close to our coast without us detecting them and potentially neutralizing them? And for the same matter, what about ours against theirs? Those are questions that I can't answer. I don't have, access to classified information. I'm not part of the War Thunder team, so maybe if I was, I would, but I don't. But if it is a point where we can track those more reliably, subs may be the most vulnerable leg in the nuclear triad. All right. So I have a few people viewing right now. Just bear with me. It's my first ever live stream, and I'm just kind of practicing, so I appreciate people jumping on and taking a quick look. So what kind of damage could be done in a major Chinese city if we were to start hitting it with nukes? And coincidentally enough, let's see here. I'm just going to do a manual single detonation and going to look at what's different possibilities and everything. Well, this possibility? What if we used a stealth bomber, which would be armed with one of the various B-61 gravity bombs? What would happen if we used that? So maybe we were going to send our stealth bombers in to do insert in, hit a specific target, a target that we want to say we want to maximize the fact it's going to be taken out. So there's a lot of uncertainty on certain actual true warhead yields. We have what's estimation. I'm going to go off a pre-built one, and so I'm going to do the 400 kiloton one. And when you look at comparison to the atomic bombs, they're dropped in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, it's in a range of 15 to 20 kilotons. So you're looking at significantly larger warhead yield side, and going to do an air burst. So, and keep in mind, for those not as familiar with nuclear weapons, that a 400 kiloton yield is a large yield side, but it is still not as large as, there are other larger warheads out there, and most missiles, not gravity bombs, but a lot of missiles are going to be MIRVed and have multiple warheads. So, but this is a 400 kiloton at 500 meters. Let's go. And so when you look at the population density in China, and Shanghai being one of their very large city, a lot of people there, 4.3 million. And it's a 400 kiloton weapon, and so you would see a significant civilian casualties. What is give me a second. I want to look this up. I used to know this off the top of my head, but yield size. So the mother of all bombs, which was at the time the largest conventional bomb versus nuclear. People say, well, I saw someone ask, is it equivalent to a smaller, lower yield nuclear weapon? The Moab is got a blast radius about 1 mile and equivalent to 11 tons of TNT. 11 tons. So compare that to a relatively modest, you say comparatively, atomic bomb, which is 15 kilotons. So exponentially greater warhead yield on what would be now considered very small in comparison. It wasn't obviously small at the time in World War II, but very small in comparison to that. So clearly that's a very bad day for China right there. Now, China has been increasing their overall nuclear stockpile quite a bit. They had for a long time exercised what they consider like a minimal credible deterrent, and they are increasing it. A lot of speculation. I'm not part of the CCP, so can't speak for them, but a lot of speculation is that they feel like the United States doesn't take their minimal credible deterrent, or their minimum deterrent, credible. So they've increased their amount of silos, and they actually have more silos than the United States does now, and they're also increasing their stockpile. They're still much smaller than the United States and Russia. The United States and Russia are pretty much close to on par with each other. And then China used to be fairly on par with France, but now they have pulled ahead of France, and so it's Russia and the United States, China, then France, then Britain. Of course, you also have other nuclear-armed countries, including Israel, Pakistan, and India, North Korea as well, and potentially, some speculation that Iran at least has a dirty bomb level. So, and if people on both sides keep invading countries, so for the United States and Western allies, there was Iraq, there was Serbia and Libya, which gave a strong motivation to countries that cannot come close to matching on a conventional level to develop nukes, like North Korea. And on the flip side, now you have Russia with Ukraine, you have the possibility of China and Taiwan. And so for the other side, that's increasing the motivation for countries like South Korea and Japan to either deploy U.S. nuclear weapons or develop their own. So as that keeps happening, that's kind of the result of what happens. So let's flip this around. China has some larger warhead yields. And we're going to go with something not quite the largest, but the Dofang 4 Alpha, 3.3 megatons. Same thing, and we're going to, let's see here. Oops. No, I did it right. So, I'm going to go with Manhattan. It's a big radius. So we went to one of the more densely populated areas of the United States to do a comparison. Much larger warhead yield size. Let's see. So despite the fact that, for the United States we used a 400 kiloton weapon, and here for China they used a 3.3 megaton weapon, you see that the casualties are comparable. A little bit higher on the United States side, but comparable. And that speaks to the density of the Chinese city like Shanghai and the vulnerability for nuclear weapons. If I were to take this same bomb and put it somewhere, in the Midwest, you would potentially see a much lower amount of casualties. In fact, I'm going to reload because one of the things I want to take a look at real fast is what if an enemy, let's say in this case China, decided that they wanted to try to neutralize missile farms. Let's just say they're going to target this. So they're going to hit them with fairly high warhead yield size. And I'm not going to, going to keep it simple though. So let's just say they're going to hit 20 on each. Same bomb. And we're going to go surface burst. So, 1, 2, 4. And the goal of this isn't to see whether or not they neutralize our weapons. It's actually to see the casualties. So we talk about a missile sponge. What would be the casualties if these were targeted to? Let's go last one. So that was just a very, very simple representation. The nuclear sponges, our 3 ICBM missile farms. So in this scenario, China hit each of them with 20. And really, okay, so what would be the casualties to the local populations? Short term, not long term. Obviously, this would have a huge impact on farming, food production, and everything else. So you see right there, and that's reason why these were placed in the location they are. So despite the fact that these had a total of 60 warheads and all were 3.3 megatons, surface burst, 783,000 casualties. So the comparison when we did one air burst 3.3 megaton in New York was 4.7 million, and then the 400 kiloton in Shanghai was 4.3 million. So that's a stark reminder of the vulnerability of densely packed cities to nuclear weapons. So, yes, they say these are nuclear sponges, but you could look at the other end of the spectrum and say, well, if the enemy's targeting our silos, then maybe they're not targeting some of our major cities, or that's a few less warheads to our major cities. In the instance of, and there's people are going to question, okay, why would they target our silos? We'd be launching our own weapons. Well, would we though? You look at it from launch to strike, there's 30 minutes. So it's 30 minutes for detection, notifications. President has to be notified, and then the president has to decide, is he going to give the authorization to strike back? And then they have to actually do it. Well, I don't know if you're keeping up on current events. I don't want to get political, whether Republican, Democrat, but I don't think you can deny the fact our president right now is older than the president we had 30 years ago. Bill Clinton's younger than Joe Biden. Bill Clinton was the president, in 1992. You're relying on a president who is pretty old, because he's the only one that can make that call, to react to all that in time. So there's no guarantee that we'd be getting off our silo. So yes, the enemy has a great motivation to try to neutralize our weapons. It will minimize what we could hit them back with. So yes, these are nuclear sponges, but you could argue that this would be less targeting of the cities. Because on the flip side, though, food production and everything else, does it matter if the cities, you have a large population in the city that survive, but now they can't eat, so they're eating each other. Yeah. It's one of those things. Nuclear war is not good, right? All right. So had some viewers pop in and pop out, and a couple likes along the way. I appreciate it. This is new grounds for me, first live stream, and I want hopefully anybody that checks it out that can enjoy it, and I'd love to do some more. I really want to get somebody else, collaborate with somebody else, somebody that's interested in nuclear war, defense industry. I'd like to, really get some discussions going, not just the nuclear simulation. Of all the videos I put out, these tend to have the most views and the most interactions. And I do like the subject. I've been, big on the subject for quite some time. But, as I look to branch out, I look at all aspects of defense. So, thank you. Big fan. My wife, she's awesome. Cheering me on in the comments. So, I think I'll do one last thing though. Let me reset yet again. Now I explored what a couple different things, but let me grab one of the Russian subs. The Delta Force. Let's go ahead and pop that bad boy right there. So, Delta 4, and those are armed with the SSN-23s. Now, these show the M1s. We're actually on M2 or 3 variant. And so it doesn't really matter, because what they have these in is the warhead size would be correct. And they should have 16 missiles with 3 warheads each, MIRVed. MIRV means multiple independent reentry vehicles. Don't chew my head off if I get that wrong. I always just go from memory on this stuff. So let's say, we tested what would happen if multiple subs were launching their missiles. What would be one sub? So say they ingress in one and they just want to create maximum chaos. So targeting of cities. And I'm going to do this manually, because sometimes when they do their targeting on the AI, I won't say I disagree with it, but sometimes there's, choices may be different. And so in this instance, they're going to want to make it very quick. And so they're going to target on the East Coast so they can launch and make their targeting soon. And they are going to hit some military targets, and they're going to try to hit command and control centers. And so let's target. So you have each missile, and then you have each warhead, and then you have height. And so let's go ahead and start doing some aim points. First of which is going to be Washington. And in this instance, they're going to dedicate all 4 of the MIRVed warheads to Washington. Going down to the next missile. Virginia Beach, large naval base there. Also, that's the basis for the East Coast SEAL teams, including DevGru. And I don't think anything would be complete if they didn't strike New York. I'm trying to cause maximum carnage. Let's see here. Stanford. A lot of major businesses located there. Let's go Boston. So I tried to put a little thought versus just randomly placement, but not putting a ton of thought. All right. All right. So you see I've laid out and there's still a lot more to go. Let's see here. You know what? Give one to Jackson. Why not? Let's hit Memphis with a couple. All right. Trying to keep this based here, mostly on the East Coast. So, let's see here. So down to the last one. Did I hit them? All right. Integral to our nation's founding, Philly. They're going to hit the Liberty Bell. And let's do one more. All right. So, like an idiot, I accidentally moved the sub into Philadelphia. So if you notice that, the sub actually fired from Philly. That wasn't Philadelphia nuking the rest of the country. That was the sub nuking the rest of the country. Let me move them back. All right, still did the purpose. So right there, one sub, one Russian sub, infiltrated the border, 5.3 million casualties. And that was a targeting along the East Coast, hitting some mix of military, civilian, and industrial targets. So when I look at it, that's one. That's a huge impact for one sub. So definitely there is a credible thought that subs alone can be a credible deterrent, provided that they are survivable. And so that's pretty interesting. All right. See a couple more people reviewing. Hey, appreciate people jumping on. It's first ever live stream, just something I'm working on, but trying to get this, trying to grow the channel a bit and get it out there to some other people, and really like to collab with some other people in the nuclear defense space. So going to be ending the broadcast now. I think I'm about 36 minutes in. Please like and subscribe. This is definitely I'm not a I say content creator, but I'm not really a content creator. I just do this as a hobby. But I appreciate everybody who takes a look, leaves a message. Thanks. Have a great day. Drink some beer. And let's hope nobody nukes anybody tonight.